Everything in life is sales. It's so important that you get comfortable with how to sell. So I guess I'm going to make a sales pitch to you on the importance of sales, because I cannot emphasize enough how much that's helped me in my entrepreneurial journey. If you learn how to sell, you'll become that much better in your business. You'll become that much better as an inventor, because as an inventor, knowing how to sell gives you that instinct of what's going to work. It's really critical to sell the problem that you're solving, not the product. People are far more emotional about their problems and you being able to offer a solution than they ever will be about your product. So don't go in there and product dump on them and start rattling off all your features, and half the features are features they don't need or want. That's a real fast way to just get the glazed look or the wall to come up between you and who you're speaking to. So it's really important to kind of know your customer. So you'd walk in and say, these three things are probably going to be the most important about what I have to this kind of consumer or to this buyer. And that's what you should focus on. And then always use humor. Whenever you can use humor or be light and a little bit vulnerable, I find that it relaxes the situation and it helps immensely. So I'll just take my very first invention, footless pantyhose. I would go in and I would start with the problem, because you should always sell the problem that you're solving, not the product. And so what I did was, I'm just going to go through the checklist. I'd start with the problem. Has this ever happened to you? Then I offer the solution. Then I describe what the product is and what's soft. And I'd always say, there's no rubber cord in the waistband, and a few details about the product. But then I would then say why it's your best solution. And I would compare it. And what's important is I would be thinking, if I'm the consumer and I'm listening to this person tell me this, I'm thinking, well, there's other options out there that can get rid of a panty line. So I've already anticipated that that objection is happening in their mind. And then that's why I say, and yes, there are other options out there, but here's what's flawed with them. They all stop on the thigh and they show. And so that's where kind of anticipating what someone might be thinking and offering them even more solution to it all comes together in a really important, concise pitch that helps them understand what's the problem, what's the product, and why is it my best choice. You know if your pitch works if it's successful. It's that simple. Did you get the order? Did you get the business? Are they buying? Are they showing up at your door? And if they're not, here's the beauty of sales and what you're doing. You iterate. You iterate. What you said may not be quite right, or maybe you're not addressing the heart of the issue the right way, or maybe you're not articulate enough in how you're solving their problems. And so it's a work in progress. It's something that you can be finessing and changing and getting better at all the time. There are typically 4 different types of people you sell to, and the good news is 1 in 4 you're going to pretty much be able to quickly close the deal or be able to get the order because you're speaking to someone much like you. But if you want to become a very effective salesperson, learning the other personality types that aren't so much like you is what really will make your closing ratio or your ability to sell to more people go up exponentially. They're called many different things. The way that I speak to them is the socializer, the director, the relator, and the thinker. And so the director is someone who wants you to be very concise and to the point. The socializer wants to get to know you a little bit better. The relator is all about empathy, and I want you to really feel like you've connected to who I am as a person and what I need, and I want to know that you care about me as a person before I do business with you. And the thinker is the analyzer that wants to know every detail about the product, whether they use it or not. The hardest one for me to sell to was always the thinker, because I was like, this is the biggest waste of time. Like, why do you want me to go over the 15 features on my fax machine that I know you're never going to use? And so I'd try to brush that off time and time again with this buyer. And I'd say, oh, look, you're never going to use that. Here are the 3 features you're actually going to use, because I was more of a director. I was more like, let's go to write what's I think is going to be important to you. And time again, I would lose the sale. And then I realized, wait, I'm forcing my style onto this person. So getting a sense of, okay, there's other people, not just like me, is a big deal. And that's also having empathy for who you're selling to, because you're not just saying, I'm going to force my style and what's important to me onto you. So taking that moment to get that nuance of who am I really speaking to and what matters to this person is a big deal. One of the key components of being a dynamic salesperson is being an unbelievable listener. And there's 2 ways to listen. One is through the verbal and the other is through nonverbal. And I encourage you to become a master at the nonverbal, because the nonverbal will tell you more of what you need to know from a customer, from a buyer, from anybody that you're speaking to and selling to than the verbal. I'll give you an example. When I went, and the first thing I did when I called the Neiman Marcus buyer, I finally get her on the phone, and that's sales 101, don't leave a message. So I called for 3 straight days at odd times until she actually picked up. I'd never left a message on her voicemail. And I said, hi, this is Sarah Blakely, and I have invented a product that's going to change the way your customers wear clothes and revolutionize the industry. And she kind of took a moment and she said, well, wait a minute, who is this and what have you done? And I said, I've invented something that's going to have a huge impact on all of your customers, and it's going to help you guys sell far more clothes, and it's going to help you, inspire customers to buy things maybe they never bought. And she said, well, I am interested. What is this? Mail it to me. And that's where you have to try to hold your ground. And I held my ground and I said, actually, I would like to come and show it to you in person. And she said, I really want you to mail it to me. And I said, I really want to come in person. It's super important to me. I will fly there. I will only take 10 minutes of your time. If you don't like it, you can kick me out, but I promise I need to be there and show you in person. And she said, okay. She said, if you're willing to fly here, I'll give you 10 minutes. And of course I showed up, and the buyer was impeccably dressed. And her shirt matched her pen, that matched her shoes. I mean, it's a super intimidating headquarters, and I've got my lucky red backpack. I had my first prototype in a Ziploc bag from my kitchen, and a color copy of what the packaging looked like that I'd created on my friend's computer. Those were my pitch materials. But once I sat in front of her and I said, this is who I am, this is what this is what this is going to do, she kind of got a glazed look on her face, and I'm just reading her nonverbals. I'm like, I'm losing her. And so I just put it all on the line, and I said, I knew my demo would be so impactful, but I didn't have anyone to demo it on. So I just leaned over and I said, Diane, would you be willing to come to the bathroom with me? She's like, excuse me? I said, I know this is a little unusual, but will you follow me to the bathroom and let me just show you what this does? And sure enough, she followed me down to the bathroom. I went in the stall. I put the Spanx on in the white pants. I came out of the stall. I showed her with and without my product. And she said, oh, I get it. And it's brilliant. And I'm going to put it in 7 stores. The word no is going to come at you, and how to handle the word no, how to handle the right cadencing of revisiting that buyer or that account, how to know how to handle them. There's a few tactics that I've always defaulted to. One is when I hear no, I usually try to use someone else as an example and said, I called on XYZ account and they said no at first too, and then this happened and it's increased their sales, or their customers ended up coming in more because they had seen it in the press, so it drove traffic to their store. I'm always looking in those no moments for a way to angle even more what's in it for them. And a lot of times other people or other examples are your best ammunition in your pocket. Another thing is cadencing when to go back to them. It's about knowing has enough time passed, because it is a balance. You don't want to be super annoying. You don't want to say, I know you said no yesterday, but I'm calling you again today, The other ace in the hole that's helped me with no's are levity, self-deprecating humor, being vulnerable, and making somebody laugh. And what I mean by that is, you might call somebody again and go, "Hi, it's Sarah. I know. I'm exactly who you woke up this morning and was hoping would call you. I get that. And you just kind of call it what it is. I know this is awkward, but I believe in my product so much, and I really, really want you to give it a second chance. I mean, those are the kinds of ways that I would approach multiple no's. And know that a lot of it's timing also. So that's also part of why it was so important to me to get, once I got one yes, I was going to do whatever it took to make that one yes work. Because if you make that one yes work, that becomes a case study for you to use to get all the other no's out there to turn to yeses. And that's exactly what happened. I'd called on other accounts, major department stores that told me no. But because I made Neiman Marcus such an amazing success and I was able to speak to it, I got the no's to turn around to be yeses. When I first started Spanx, I was always looking for ways to leverage myself, because as an entrepreneur, it's pretty much in the beginning you. And I went to every department store that Spanx was sold in and actually sold the product for them, which is really interesting because a lot of people would get that major sale from a Neiman Marcus or a Saks Fifth Avenue and say, "I've arrived." And that's actually the moment I said, this is where the work begins. And I went every day for 2 years to every department store that sold Spanx and stood in their stores and sold it for them. And what that did was so important. I actually was building a sales force and inspiring people to want to sell my product that weren't on my payroll. So every time I would go to a department store and I would train everybody on what Spanx was, I'd get them all excited. I'd do what was called a morning rally before the store opened. Morning rallies were a standard thing that these stores did, so I wasn't inventing the morning rally. And my goal was, how do I make every single employee in this store that I spend the day at trying to sell to customers walking in the door a huge fan of what I've invented? And this was another thing that I realized, that my morning rally was usually for the 3 people that worked in the hosiery department. Well, as an entrepreneur, I just got on a plane, I flew to this location, and this is my one shot. I wasn't leveraging myself and my time the best. So I had to go and run around the department stores and physically recruit the ladies in the cosmetics section and the ladies and men in the shoe department and in the couture and in the ready-to-wear sections, and beg them basically to come to my morning rally. And then the other thing I did was I started bribing sales associates with free product. So I'd run over to the shoe department and go, "Hey, I'm Sarah Blakely. I'm just here for today. I invented this product. I'm doing a morning meeting in the hosiery department, but I'm giving everybody free product. Will you come? And it's also going to help you sell a lot more strappy sandals and shoes, so you're not going to want to miss it." So I was always trying to add a what's in it for them to get them to come. I left no salesperson in that store behind. Eventually, word got out that my morning rallies were fun. I would show videos of the press that I'd been on. I'd been on a few local TV shows, so I would have a TV and VCR, that's right, a TV and VCR set up in the department in the main store and show them, and they were funny. There was a lot of humor in it. It was about no panty lines and me talking about how I'm going to change the world one butt at a time. And so people got really emotional about wanting to help me as well. They saw that I was putting my own butt on the line in a big way to try to get this product out there. What I'm trying to convey here is control your success as much as you possibly can. Do not leave it in the hands of other people any chance along the way that you have, especially in the beginning. People's number one fear is public speaking, and then right behind that is fear of failure and fear of being embarrassed. And being in sales is making yourself so vulnerable. I mean, you're kind of willing each time you do it to face all 3. When I sold fax machines door to door for 7 years, every month you'd walk in, everyone was in cubicles, and there'd be a whiteboard with your name on it, and at the start of every month there'd be a 0. and I had to sell $20,000 worth of fax machines a month in 4 zip codes in Clearwater, Florida, with 100% cold calling, like no incoming calls. So all day long, every day, I was going up and down businesses unannounced, walking in and saying, "Hey, have you always been looking for a fax machine?" And I mean, they'd kick me out or slam the door. And I get so nervous. Sometimes I would literally walk into an office, and they'd be smaller office, like in strip mall kind of places, like the pawn shop and then this and then that, or chiropractic office. And I'd walk in, and everyone would stop what they're doing and turn and look at me. And sometimes I would totally chicken out. And I just go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong building." Because I would literally, I couldn't even say, "I'm Sarah, and I'm here to sell a fax machine." I mean, I would get because I got so much rejection. To overcome the fear of selling, you got to do it. It's just like anything. When people say, "How do you develop courage?" You just time and time again make the decision to do it despite fear. I'm a salesperson. I've been selling for most of my life, and I'm still very nervous and I get knots in my stomach before I make the call, even today, 20 years in. But I think the best way to get better at it is to just do it. A few things that I did growing up is I would force myself to take public speaking classes, and I would be extremely nervous, but I would do it. And I also took debate. So debate is unbelievably helpful in sales because it trains you to think about what the objections are going to be. Because debate is basically having to study and analyze the way two sides are going to see an issue. And that's always happening in sales and in entrepreneurship. The more that you can anticipate the objections you will get, the more prepared you will be, and the better salesperson you will become, and the better and the more gifted you will be at being able to persuade people to try your product. And if you make a fantastic product or you have a fantastic service and you've dedicated your own time, your own money, and your own energy, you should really be good and not feel bad about convincing people to try it. So one of the things I did in my life to really teach myself vulnerability and try to get a better handle on humor was I actually took a comedy class. And at the end of the class, we had to get on stage and perform and do stand-up comedy. And I wrote all my own material, and I was so nervous. And I went out and I did it, and I was terrified. I ended up doing stand-up comedy at night for 2 years. How many of you guys out there would love to get your hands on these? Hell yeah? Okay, no problem. Woo! My parents want me to get married. They're like, "Sarah, it's a good thing, get married." I'm like, "Yeah, right." Knowing what the divorce rate is, I wouldn't try hand gliding if there was a 60% chance I wouldn't make it. So I told her, "I'm thinking about getting a dog instead." And my mom said, "Now, Sarah, you really need to think that through. That's like a 15-year commitment." So, okay, I'll get a 14-year-old dog. I just learned so much. I learned about timing, cadence, the difference between, I would say the same line or the same joke one night, and I would change one word in it, and the next night it would be crickets. And the night before I would have killed it, like the whole place was laughing. And so I carried a lot of what I learned in the stand-up comedy. I was not good enough to do it full time. And I guess you could say in many ways I failed at that. But the outcome was how much it enriched my life. See, everything you try in life, whether you're like, this is way out on a limb, what am I doing this? There's always something you're going to get from it. So I'm challenging you to go and perform a stand-up comedy routine. Record it, record yourself doing it, write out whatever you think you see in life, what's funny about you, what's funny about life, whatever it is that you want to talk about, and perform it to friends, to family, maybe just to yourself recording it. And or you could do an open mic night in a local club in your hometown. You'll start to be able to relate to people and be able to communicate with people in a way that is more fun and also a deeper connection.